Mail. Today is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and Thursday is Chungjangnou's 70s, 80s festival, where they feature some artifacts, some culture, fashion, and trends, ideas, thoughts during the Korea's 1970s and 80s, which was very tumultuous period where the democracy was trying to plant its root among the grassroots. So I'm quite excited about the festival. Tomorrow I'm gonna go over to the festival site to see how they are doing, how they've prepared for the festival. But before do that, 오징어 game or the Squid Game, produced from Korea, was phenomenal. It was number one on the Netflix in more than 100 countries. It's the Netflix production. During that, in that movie scene, there's a particular scene where the Squid Game guardsmen guards harvested organs from the dead or almost dead people who were participants in the various stages of the Squid Game. I've heard a lot about organ harvesting in China and India. Let's check out how they are harvested illegally in China. So here we go. Daily Mail news. They will take your liver and you won't even know. Fuck that. China's real life Squid Game. How organs are harvested from thousands every week for a kill to order market. For a kill to order market. How organs are harvested from thousands every week for a cure to order market, and why the world is powerless to stop it. Why powerless? Because China is so strong? China has a real-life Squid Game harvesting the organs of political dissidents. Political distance. Thousands of prisoners are slaughtered for hearts, kidneys, livers, and corneas. UN experts recently released a statement about the Kill to Order organ program. But the international community are powerless to stop the terrifying trade. Since it first hit Netflix last month, South Korean horror series Squid Game has captivated audiences in over 90 countries. It captivated audiences in over 90 countries. Horror series. South Korean horror series Squid Game has captivated audiences in over 90 countries, quickly becoming the most watched international show in streaming platforms history. Viewers were enthralled by the blood-soaked dystopian thriller that pits players against each other in contests fought to the death for a chance to win cash. Contests fought to the death. Contests fought to the death. And while the Asian drama is obviously fictitious and a pointed critique of modern life, one of the show's side plots where human beings have their organs harvested and sold is very real. China's Communist Party removes, they removes what? China's Communist Party removes hearts, kidneys, livers, and corneas, eyes from 100,000 dissidents and political prisoners every year, with a government-run kill-to-order organ trafficking network operating on a grand scale. Human rights groups claim. It's not an official claim, but human rights groups claim. But the international community remains powerless to stop the slaughter because the World Health Organization is compelled to accept the totalitarian nation's inadequate and misleading hospital data without question. One of the side plots in the smash hit Korean horror thriller Squid Game is a human organ harvesting racket. One of the side plots in the smash hit Korean horror thriller Squid Game is a human organ harvesting racket. One of the side plots in the smash hit Korean horror thriller Squid Game is a human organ harvesting racket. But the international community remains powerless to stop the slaughter because the World Health Organization is compelled to accept the totalitarian nation's inadequate, misleading hospital data without question. Picture Chinese medical staff in Wuhan on January 25th, 2020. China's government runs kill-to-order organ trafficking network parallels the violent South Korean horror Squid Game. The show's villain pictured one of the side plots in the smash hit South Korean horror movie is a human organ harvesting racket. President Xi Jinping's pictured Communist Party removes hearts, kidneys, livers, and corneas from 100,000 dissidents and political prisoners every year. The most common organs removed from the prisoners are reportedly hearts, kidneys, livers, and corneas. UN Human Rights Office. Just a week before the Netflix hit was released, Beijing furiously denied the existence of state-sponsored organ harvesting program after the UN Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner said China was targeting specific ethnic, linguistic, or religious minorities held in detention and raking in $1 billion a year, raking in $1 billion a year, held in detention, fought to the death fought to the death, held in detention. Xi Jinping targeting government-sponsored organ harvesting racket. 9 UN special rapporteurs from the Human Rights Council spent over a year unearthing witness testimony and examining China's highly suspicious organ donor rates to shed new light on the terrifying killed organ market. UN human rights experts said today they were extremely alarmed by reports of alleged organ harvesting targeting minorities, including Falun Gong practitioners, Uyghurs, Tibetans, Muslims, and Christians in detention in China. The statement said, in detention in China. They have received credible information that detainees may be forcibly subjected to blood tests, organ examinations such as ultrasound and x-rays, without their informed consent. While other prisoners are not required to undergo such examinations without their informed consent. The results of the examinations are reportedly registered in a database of living organ sources that facilitates organ allocation. They are forcibly subjected to blood tests, medical examinations such as ultrasound or x-rays without their informed consent. The results of, according to the allegations received, the most common organs removed from the prisoners are reportedly hearts, because they don't have hard evidence. So it was reportedly hearts, kidneys, livers, and corneas, and less commonly parts of livers. UN human rights experts said they were extremely alarmed by reports of alleged organ harvesting targeting minorities, including Falun Gong practitioners, Uyghurs, Tibetans, Muslims, and Christians in detention in China. Pictured Uyghur protesters in Hong Kong. The UN Human Rights Council received credible information that detainees may be forcibly subjected to blood tests and organ examinations such as ultrasound and x-rays without their informed consent, while other prisoners, what the heck is going on here? I'm pissed off. I need a beer. They have received credible information that, according to the UN Human Rights Council, received credible information that detainees may be forcibly subjected to blood tests and organ examinations such as ultrasound and x-rays without their informed consent, while other prisoners are not required to undergo such examinations. Ethnic Uyghur women often subjected to the terrifying practice of organ harvesting. Protests as Chinese riot police move in at Urumqi in China's far west Xinjiang province on July 7, 2009. The grim statement also points out that this form of alleged trafficking relies heavily on skilled healthcare workers sworn to protect their patients, including surgeons, anesthetists, and other medical specialists, as well as participation from various public sector professionals. Some prisoners receive death threats and threats of organ harvesting from the police if they do not renounce their beliefs or refuse to cooperate with the police, the statement said. One of the red flags with China's organ transplant system is that recipients can book surgeries at specific times and locations. In other medical systems, this does not happen because surgeons cannot predict when a person who has elected to be an organ donor will die. Anesthetists Yeah, difficult word. Anesthetists. Under an ethical process approved by the WHO, the deceased's organs will be matched to the most urgent patient on a transplant list who is within traveling distance of the hospital. For many desperate people, it can take years to receive transplant surgery, as recipients must be the same blood type as the deceased and have the same sized organ. Must be the same blood type. One of the red flags with China's organ transplant system is that recipients can book surgeries at specific times and locations. Pictured, police detained a man during a rally in Hong Kong on December 22, 2019, to show support for the Uyghur minority in China. The alleged trafficking relies heavily on skilled healthcare workers sworn to protect their patients, including surgeons, anesthetists, and other medical specialists, as well as participation from other public sector professionals. Pictured, a Uyghur re-education camp in Hotan, China's northwestern Xinjiang region. A plainclothes policeman watched as a female Falun Gong practitioner resists arrest while being forced by police towards a police van on May 11, 2000, in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. Plainclothes policeman. An undercover phone call to a Chinese military hospital shows just how easy it is to get human organs. The following transcript is an undercover phone call made to the People's Liberation Army number 107 hospital in Yantai, Shandong province on September 1st, 2019. It shows how human being organs are supplied on demand in China. Excerpt, script, excerpt, undercover phone call, Investigator, if the registration is okay in the fastest case, how long do we have to wait? Dr. Feng Zhendong. It depends on if we have the liver source. If you had called earlier, then we would have had it today. What does it mean that if I had called earlier? It means that I would have done it for you today. So it can be done quickly, right? Right. Our hospital generally has relatively abundant liver sources, many donated organs. So our liver resources are relatively abundant. Investigator, so almost every day you have organs. Whether it matches or not is another issue. Is that what you mean? Not almost every day, but we basically have organs almost every month. In the fastest cases, we basically have organs every week. But undercover phone calls made to Chinese hospitals as part of the independent China Tribunal hearings in 2019 show how fast patients can get surgery under the kill-to-order system. Get surgery under the kill-to-order system. In one excerpt, Dr. Feng Zhendong from a Shandong province military hospital tells the investigator over the phone about the abundance of organs which arrive every month. Although China's disturbing state-sponsored organ trafficking has been well documented for decades, there is very little the international community can do to stop the horrific trade, well documented. Beijing is able to cover up their human rights abuses by underreporting transplant data to the World Health Organization, which is compelled to accept the official statistics of member states. Susie Hughes, the executive director of the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China, said China's claims they are performing 10,000 to 20,000 do not stick to. A recent statistical analysis of China's current organ transplant system showed the numbers China has been putting out have been falsified, purged. So told Daily Mail Australia, when you examine hospital revenues, bed utilization rates, and the number of the surgical teams from the official Chinese data, the figure is more likely to be between 60,000 to 100,000 transplants per year. The China Tribunal found the Uyghur Muslim minority, along with the followers of the banned spiritual practice Falun Gong, are essentially being used as an organ bank for domestic and foreign buyers. An organ bank. Falun Gong practitioner Gina To Liu, who was incarcerated for over 2 years, gave a terrifying testimony to the expert panel. I was locked in a cell with about 8 drug addicts who were commonly induced to abuse Falun Gong practitioners. These drug addicts were rostered on shifts to prosecute me by the guard's order. Rostered on shifts. These drug addicts were rostered on the night shift. They were rostered on shifts to prosecute me by the guard's order. They were rostered on shifts. The cell had a surveillance camera installed, so the guards knew everything that happened inside. Pictured a contestant in the Squid Game show is covered in blood after another player's head is blown off in a hellish version of the children's game. Undercover phone calls made to Chinese hospitals as part of the International China Tribunal hearings in 2019 show how fast patients can get surgery. Not get her, but get surgery under the kill to order system, racket, scheme. Don't go against the Communist Party. Don't resist them. If you do, where your heart, liver, spleen, and lungs will be taken. You won't even know, Falun Gong practitioner Yu Xinhui. One day, a drug addict inmate was beating by back and waist, and another inmate came in from outside and yelled at him, "Don't injure his organs." Uyghur prisoner Zumarest Duat said she was taken to a hospital on the first day of her 3 months in detention to have her organs scanned. Only after they removed the black hood from over my head did I realize I was in a hospital, she said in her testimony. I saw police in uniform everywhere, also people wearing white coats walking about, so I guessed that I was in a hospital. They drew blood samples first, then x-rayed my internal organs. They drew blood samples, subject to medical examinations. They drew blood samples first. They drew blood samples first. They drew blood samples first, then x-rayed my hospital organs. Another Falun Gong member, Wu Xinhui, who spent 6 years behind bars, said a prison system medical practitioner had tried to warn him of the horror. Uyghur prisoner Zumarat Duat said she was taken to a hospital on the first day of the 3 months in detention to have her organs scanned. Pictured Uyghur women in Urumqi, China, hold their missing relatives' ID cards after they had been detained by authorities. Despite the findings, Beijing has repeatedly denied forced human organ harvesting is practiced in China, calling the UN's statement fabricated, falsified, forcibly, fabricated and defamatory. Falun Gong practitioners in China. One prison doctor who was sympathetic to us Falun Gong practitioners secretly told me, Mr. Yu said in his evidence, "Don't go against the Communist Party. Don't resist them. If you do, then the time comes you won't even know where you have died." When it happens where your heart, liver, spleen, and lungs will be taken, you won't even know. Despite the findings, Beijing has repeatedly denied forced human organ harvesting is practiced in China, calling the UN's statement fabricated and defamatory. So fabricated, falsified, forcibly subjected, they are subjected, be subject to defamatory, organ harvesting, spleen, liver, cancer, what else? Right organs. Well, I think that's it for today. Some expressions like one of the side plots in the smash hit South Korean movies is a human organ harvesting racket. Yeah, one of the side plots. Ethnicity, falun gong. Well, I think that's it for today. So that was the how China is harvesting allegedly or reportedly harvesting organs from people. Medical examinations such as ultrasound, X-rays, scanned. People hold in detention in China, political distance and prisoners. Who else? Organ donor recipients, hospitals, doctors, medical hospitals, doctors. Yeah, that's it for today. I feel sleepy.